So great morning. It's so good to see everybody's face today. We've got an incredible group, some energetic, intelligent people. I'm so excited to speak with you. For those of you that are new, welcome to Breakthrough Mastermind Group. The premise is to give other business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs information. We're not here to pitch our business. However, I would love for you guys to use the chat, set up calls with people that you don't know, get to know one another independently. But today's topic is going to be on servicing in the business sector. So specifically what I mean by that is, has anybody in here, do they play or have you played a sales role before? Just raise a hand. Awesome. As you very well know, it is extremely important to have a follow-up system. I can't tell you how many sales have been lost or have fallen off the books because people didn't have a proper system to service people after the sale. The sale is not the last stop, and that just displays the importance. So today, our speaker is Esther. I am so excited about Esther speaking. She has got to be one of the best connectors I've ever met. I mean, she's just always leads from the front. She is so extremely selfless, but she has her hands in a lot of different industries. And with that, she really understands the importance of being able to follow up with business owners and providing the proper service so that you can extend and expand and create more revenue, essentially. So without further ado, I'm Esther, again, thank you so much for your time. Just a very warm person. I'm going to give the floor to you. One last thing before I do, guys, if you have any questions, please just jot them down. We're going to give Esther about 2 to 15 minutes to speak. As soon as she finishes, we're going to open the floor for Q&A. So if you have any questions, jot them down. And Esther, it's all you.
Thanks so much, Keegan. Actually, it's my honor and pleasure to be here. I know many of you, I know how great you are, but I also know because Keegan brought you together, how great you are. So thank you for taking time to listen. Keegan, thank you for thinking that what I have to share is worth it. Hopefully it is, but keep me posted, and Keegan, keep me honest on time. I'll tell you, when you asked me to speak on these two topics, I was like, social media and service in 3 minutes. Like, what am I going to do with these two massive topics, and how the hell am I going to do justice to them in such a short amount of time? Then I was on my way home from a conference in Orlando last week, and I was thinking a little bit more, and I was like, actually, for me, my social media is literally service. Like, the reason that I network, the reason that I connect, the reason that I have my hands in so many things, and that I'm so active on social media is really only to be of service to people. Like, that's ultimately the goal. So with that premise, I'm going to kind of focus more on the service side of things. And hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And it's just not possible to talk about everything that fits under these two topics in such a short amount of time. So if anybody wants to continue the conversation offline, I welcome that. And hopefully we'll get deeper into the weeds. But I'm going to share with you a couple of things. Some of it is, I would say, very radical. I have some of my own ideas on life and service and things. If I was publishing this in a book, I would probably put the little disclaimer, like, everything you hear is only reflects the views of the author, and don't, take it or leave it. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, I welcome you to give it a try and let me know if it works for you, because I think you might be surprised. But so the first thing I'm going to say, sometimes I feel like I'm taking things that people think one way and turning them over. That's just the way that I live. So a little look into my world. But job descriptions. I do not believe in job descriptions. And what I mean by that is, so many times I hear people saying, like, yeah, and they don't carry their weight, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. And my philosophy in life, and what I feel has part of what's gotten me to where I am, is just leave job descriptions out the door. Everything is your responsibility, and nothing is your responsibility. I find so much, and I'm just so passionate about leadership and service. I find that there's always opportunities to step up. I feel that everybody has them, no matter where you are. And the difference between those who are leaders and those who are not are the people who take them, who step up and say, here's an opportunity or a space. And I don't mean necessarily physically, just metaphysically. If we could go into that little space for a minute in this morning, but there's always an opportunity. And I'm going to share some random thoughts and experiences that I've had to sort of demonstrate that and how I've seen it. But that's rule number one. Every time you are in either a job position, or just in a company, or in a space even, or in a networking event, the way that I attend events, I say, don't be an attendee. Everybody these days attends networking events. You're not going to leg up. You're not going to be a service person by attending an event. When you go to an event, be active, try to be a host. And by that, I mean, it's a little bit easier in a way in a real room. Like when I used to go to events in person, I would go over to people and say like, welcome. And they would say like, oh, is this your event? And I would say, absolutely not, but I'm new here. You're new here. Let's be friends. And that was it. And then we would connect and go from there. And like, it's not easy to do that. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward, but I have news for you. Everyone's awkward. Everyone's uncomfortable. And the proof is the way that they're going to respond to you when you say that. Trust me, try it. So that's just one thought I had. The other thing is when it comes to social media, I'll be honest, you're not going to believe me. Keegan's definitely not going to believe me, but I am a very private person. I hate being out there. And my philosophy in life is share nothing. Share nothing. Now, before you all start screaming at me, there's a caveat to that. Share nothing except if what you're sharing can help somebody. So I share a lot. And every time I share, I should say 99% of the time, maybe now I've gotten a little more comfortable with sharing things that I shouldn't share. But when I share, there's a thought behind how can this post help somebody? And a lot of it is attitude. Like I feel that these days, it's so easy to use our platforms and our social media in a way that helps others. GoFundMe's. How many times a day do you get people sending you or posting my GoFundMe? Can you share it? Can you support me? And I used to be that person who was like, oh my God, another GoFundMe. Like I can't support another GoFundMe. Now I'm like, GoFundMe, opportunity, service. I could either give money, can't always give money. I have no money. I'm destitute, no problem. I could share this post. How many seconds does it take you to share the post, to comment so other people see it and say, oh, wow, great work. I'm in support of you. Like it's such an easy way and people don't do it enough. It's such an easy way to help people get out there. And even social media, right? It's not called solo media. It's called social media. I had that thought in the car on my way home from my conference too, right? Like every time you post about yourself, you spoke somewhere, you had a podcast somewhere, use that opportunity about yourself to post about somebody else. Comment on the people who got you to that position, tag them. Maybe the people who invested in you or who supported you or who are going to watch the podcast, right? Say like, I'm grateful to you, or the people who sponsored it or whoever. Use it to always promote other people alongside yourself. And then I want to just share, I'm definitely going to run out of time because there's just so much to say on this topic, but I wanted to share a quick story. So when I was at one of my first jobs in New York City on Lexington Avenue, back in the day when I was hustling, and I can tell you stories about some of the things I've done in my earlier days, which I almost miss those days. I miss being somebody who can kind of make an impact from a place that people don't necessarily notice. I think there's a lot of power there and I appreciate that. But I used to, we had like security guards back in the days when physical offices were a thing. And I used to always think like, I would offer every once in a while to get like the security guard a cup of coffee. And the first time I did it, I just saw their face light up and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like I felt bad. I was like, this stupid cup of coffee that cost me $1.98 from Dunkin' Donuts across the street is just like making them so happy. Like what's wrong with this world or what's wrong with me? I was like very, very disturbed by that. So I got into the elevator that morning in the building. It was a big building in New York City. And I was like, what if like they could get this like coffee every single day? Like I could put this smile on their face every single day. Like, what would that look like? And then I was like, me being the community builder that I am, like, how could we involve other people in this like idea of like getting them coffee? So I went to my desk, I took out a Word document. I called it the Coffee Project. Very original for me, let me tell you. And I got back into the elevator that day. I turned around because sometimes in New York, I don't know how many of you rode like a New York City elevator and sometimes it's like super quiet in there. It's like a little awkward, unless you're riding with me and then everyone's talking, or I am and everyone's hating on me. But so I was like, hey guys, I just turned around to the elevator. I was like, hey, I had this idea. Like, what if, and I was like talking really fast because I didn't want to like lose them before the like floor, the door opened up. I was like, what if we each like took a turn? I'm like, I started this project. And then they were like, whoa, slow down. Well, what's going on? I was like, what if you just signed up to get the security guard coffee one day of the week? And then we got somebody from this building to do it every single day. I was like, all you got to do is put your email on here. I said, I promise not to spam you. I promise not to send you anything but your day for coffee? I said, sure. And I did this for a couple of days. It took a few days. We had 30 people signed up, and the security guard got coffee every single day. And I've never shared this story before. I've never told anyone. I think in my head, I was kind of like, I like to do social experiments. And I was like, I wonder where this would go. And some of the people became friends through it, and they started talking. And in my head, I was like, maybe down the line, I'd love to like replicate this idea. I feel like it's so easy, and like all buildings could do it. It would build community, and the security guards would get their coffee, and we would spend $2, which we could all afford, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, we could get Starbucks to back in. It become like a national like thing. Then COVID happened, offices went nowhere, and that was over. I'm sure we could do something like it virtually, but I share it just now, just to bring out the idea that like everybody's in a position to make an impact. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It doesn't have to be expensive. I think it's more about just looking around, paying attention, and then caring enough to do something about it. Like that's really where it is. Has anyone read the book, The Motivation Myth? Jeff Hayden. Really one of my favorite books. He was kind enough to sign it for me. And that actually leads me to another thing that I would say, like social media has made it so easy to have opportunity. Like everyone's accessible. Everything is accessible. You hear someone speak. I mentioned I was at a conference last week. Forgot the guy's name offhand, but he's one of 2 people who like climbed all 13 mountains. And like, I reached out to him on LinkedIn after, and he just was like, so cool. He was like chatting with me. He's like, oh, thank you so much for coming. I was like, dude, you're like this guy who like climbed Mount Everest. And I was very inspired by what he shared, which is why I reached out to him. But that's the other thing. Every time I go to an event right after, I say like, okay, who's the organizers? Who could I thank? And I write an old-fashioned handwritten thank you card. Now I'm very blessed. I thank my parents for this when I was younger. In school, every single year, they made us write thank you cards, hard note thank you cards to all the teachers, even the teachers who sucked, who I got bullied in their class. They would make us write thank you cards. And they taught us to write thank you cards, to be grateful, and they taught us to be honest. So when you had a teacher who sucked and you had to write a thank you card, and I mean sucked, like by everyone's standards, not just mine, because I was pretty harsh on them. I would write like, thank you so much for taking the time to teach me. But I didn't write, I learned so much in your class. I was like very into that, you know, like I was not going to lie if I had to write these thank you cards to the teachers. But there was always something to find to thank them for, either their investment in time or their knowledge, even if I didn't necessarily take it in, but they gave it. So that also taught me to look for the positive, I think, in people and focus on that, because everyone has something to give. And on that end, I would say, you know, I feel like a lot of what I say, people are like, oh, but you have the opportunities, or like, you're already at the events, or like, we need like a step before, like, how do we get these opportunities? How do we get into the events? How do we get to have an opportunity like this? And I would say, first of all, we could talk offline. When I was starting out, I used to Google, like, I have a big nonprofit passion, which is also back to the service and leadership thing. But I used to just Google like events. There's so many, there's so much to do. And you could also, I've actually led a mission trip to Belize off of a Facebook post of a girl in a Women in Tech Facebook group. So I'm kind of infamous for finding myself in places just based off of outreach to people. But the opportunities are there, is what I'm saying. It's a matter of finding the ways to capitalize on that. Everybody has opportunities. Oh, and that's what I was going to say. Everyone has something or some talent or some area of life that they are an expert on. So if you're looking for a place to start, what I would recommend is taking that little thing. It could even be playing the flute. It could be something insignificant. Everyone has something. It doesn't have to be professional or work related. Find audiences in front of who you can share your talent. Find places to speak, and they exist. If you can't find them, reach out to me. I'll help you find them. But share it with anyone. Start small. Go to your siblings, go to your cousins, your friends, your neighbors, me. I'll listen any day, all day. And then use that sort of prep, get better at whatever that thing is, and keep sharing it in front and in as many places as possible. I think that's a really great way to start. Eventually, if you do it enough, and people enjoy it, they'll come back and ask you at some point to keep sharing it. And that can get you in front of a lot of people. Keegan, how am I doing on time?
If you could wrap up, we're about there.
Sure. Everyone's awake still, so that's good, I guess, or at least looks like it. Let me just see what else. Well, on my LinkedIn, I have a quote that says, leadership is a stance in the world. It's not a job title. And I really think a lot of it is just perspective. People think I'm not this enough. I'm not ready. I certainly don't feel equipped to stand here and speak about service to you guys. Like, you're all so much more knowledgeable, experienced, and wonderful than I could ever dream to be. But I was like, let me just go for it. Like, you're all willing to listen. I'm not going to like say no, you know? So I think just like stepping into like being who you are and like not being afraid to share and it's huge. Again, I'm a total introvert. I know you're not going to believe me. I said nothing until I was 16. I said no words. So I get it. It took work and practice and passion, I would say. But I realized that there was an opportunity to like make a difference for people to learn. So I know I said I'm an introvert. I know I said I don't do social media. I have 5 social media Instagram accounts because each one is for a different area of my life. And because when I started posting, people came and they were like, oh, you had alopecia when you were 18? Oh, my sister, cousin, nephew, friend also does. Like, can you help? And I had doctors and I had this. And I was like, of course I can help. Like, you know, I have an account for my health journey because somebody else can learn from it. And then the bigger following you build, the more people you can help. Just another quick thing, like I keep a spreadsheet of job seekers. I have a list of 50 job seekers. I wish it was smaller, but it's not. And then people who are looking to hire. That has nothing to do with my job. That's not in my job description, never was. But I realized I was starting to talk to a lot of people who were job seeking or looking to hire. And I was like, why can't I be the person who is able to put them together, right? It's so easy. They're coming to me anyway. I'm spending the time. I may as well go one step further and take notes and keep a record of it so I can help more people. So it's just like little things like that, just thinking about every time you walk into a space, it could be physical or virtual. It's another thing I like to do is like, what am I giving to this space? Like this Zoom right now, like I could tell you've all done that on the Zoom because like I'm getting something from you all being here in front of me listening. But what are you doing that like when you walk in quotes into that Zoom space, it made a difference that you were in that room. That when you walk out, Keaton's like, oh, I'm so glad Bill was there. I'm so glad Jen was there. If she hadn't been there, like it would have been a different space and energy in the room. Like just give something to somebody in every space you walk into and the world, I think, will be better for it. So I'm going to leave you with one last thought that I had. I was thinking everybody's chasing success, right? We're chasing money, we're chasing fame, we're chasing this, we're chasing that. My philosophy is like, let's chase service. Let's chase service. Let's chase helping people. Let's make that the forefront, the leader of every single thing that we do, everything we think. And then success is going to come, but then we're going to have service and success. So let's lead with service rather than leading with chasing, you know, money, fame, and all the other things.
Woo! Love it.
That's it.
Esther, thank you so much.
I hope that was helpful.
Absolutely.
Sure.
You made so many great points. I just want to recap real quick, and then we're going to open it for Q&A. So a couple of the words that really stood out to me in your presentation was ownership, being intentional, and perspective, but also the concept of value and impact. This gets overlooked so frequently is when we have a title, and even when we're an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, business owner, we provide a service, a product, we provide something, right? But going above and beyond and adding additional value and impact, and you do such a good job of that through networking, making connections, helping people where you can, sharing posts, commenting, these little tiny things, but they add up over and over and over and over again. And it helps people to remember you for more than just the product or service that you represent. So 2 last points on what you shared is handwritten cards are not dead. I don't care who says that they are. When is the last time that you received a handwritten card? I guarantee you it stood out because we're so accustomed to receiving bills or advertising literature or something in the mail that when we get that handwritten card, it's just like, oh my gosh, it hits you in the feels. And one thing that I would love to share with everybody on this call is I personally love writing handwritten cards, and 2 quotes that you can share with people that are really easy to convey this. Number 1, you have been in my thoughts, or I'm constantly thinking of you. You know, those just kind of, they sit well with people. And then the last thing is that character, is that it says so much about your character to be able to provide a coffee to the security guard, to be able to smile and have somebody smile back. These are little things that you don't have to be an extraordinary person to do, but it can be completely monumental in somebody's day. So Esther, Awesome speech. Thank you so much. I would love to open the floor now to everybody. If you have questions, comments, concerns, stories, experiences.
I've got a few.
Go ahead.
Oh, all right, Dylan. Esther, first of all, I really appreciate the enthusiasm, the optimism. It transferred to me. So thank you for starting out my day on a very positive note. So I appreciate that. 3 quick questions. When you're matchmaking those people who are looking for new work, are you getting paid an extra commission or some kind of referral? Because you definitely should be. Okay, because those headhunters get paid a lot, up to 20-30%, of the first year base salary. So I hope you're getting something for that. That's number 1. Yes.
You want me to answer? Oh, I wasn't sure if you wanted to rapid fire.
Oh, okay.
No, thank you for giving me the space. I prefer it this way. My brain does many things, but answer 3 questions at once is not necessarily one of them. I do get paid. I don't get paid monetarily. And that's the way that I've always chosen to live my life. Like, for example, right now I'm in a somewhat of a sales role, and I set the terms. I don't want commission. It's just not the way. Again, it's radical. It's not necessarily the way that people think. My thing is always lead with help, lead with service. Everything else will come after. I make the money I need. I'm fine. And I believe that if you have that mindset, it will work for you too. I get paid a ton, just not monetarily. And I was going to say, you brought up a really good point. Like, I get it. Like, people have quotas, blah, 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 blah. There's so much pushback you could give. I know that this is the way that I lead my life. It works for me. You do what works for you. But yeah, on that end, I do not get paid, and I don't want to get paid.
No, it's an amazing mindset. I commend you. Have you thought about joining the Rotary Club? I'm a Rotarian, and it's all about service.
I would love to learn more about it. I have not, but
it'd be awesome.
I would love to. Yeah. Let's talk offline, and thank you for that.
Okay. Yep. And then lastly, what would you say are the differences between LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram?
Yeah, that's a great question. And also, I'm sorry that I couldn't talk so much on social. So again, if anybody has specific questions, we could talk offline. Personally, I'm very active. The ones that I use are Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm not such a Twitter person. I don't do too much politician work. So I guess that's why right now. But I have completely different networks on all 3, and I keep it that way because I use each one for different reasons. So for me, LinkedIn is very B2B, and that's where I promote all my business connections. I have some friends on there, but it's more business. I don't share anything on there that's really personal that I would care if anyone outside of my, like, if I don't care who sees it. It's total. I wouldn't care if anyone in the world looked at my LinkedIn. There's really not too much there that I consider personal. I don't really post personal things. You won't see anything about my like alopecia journey or scale stroke or whatever else I blog about on Instagram. But I think it's kind of personal. I feel like, again, like, you can find what works for you. But I have heard that LinkedIn is more of a business platform. I think if you're looking to sell, LinkedIn is amazing. I was, I think, one of the earliest adopters to LinkedIn. I thought it was amazing way back when. I like to try things, and I just jumped right in. I built my resume when I was like 15, had like a whole host of jobs, including like cleaned up my siblings, like high chair, like stuff like that. But 5 years experience, blah, 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 blah. And then over the years, I should get one of my first resumes to share with you guys. It'd be funny. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Esther. Dylan, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Keegan. Esther, just incredibly impressive. We've connected, so many times in the past and have done so much networking, but this was really great to hear you speak on this. A couple of things you said really stuck out to me. It's not solo media, it's social media, with LinkedIn specifically, I guess I mentor a lot of younger individuals on the platform, and none of them want to share anything. They just don't want to post. And I said, if just by posting, and don't, post about yourself, post about others is what I say. And just doing that separates yourself on that platform so significantly. And you're a perfect example of that. And then I just think your social experiment with the coffee story, if you ever want to take that off the ground, I'm in. Count me in. And then just, I think so much of what you said, where let's lead with service, not success, and with service, success will come. Like, that's brilliant. I think everybody, if there was nothing else to take away from this call, that would be it. And then I just figured I'd mention, I share a very similar message with my network, and people ask kind of like what my approach is. Because Esther, me and you do a lot of similar connecting. And I say, listen, you got to give first, and you can't ask for anything in return, but that's not enough. You have to mean it. You have to mean it.
Yeah.
Like, just simply not asking for anything in return. Like, that's a great step. You're separating yourself, because still so many people don't do that, but meaning it is totally, totally different. And you either have that or you don't. Yeah. That's something you're born with, or something that it's really hard to learn, but you can. But I just wanted to share that. Esther, we have to connect again. That was just amazing.
Dylan, do you mind if I share real quick how we met originally?
Yeah, sure.
I think it demonstrates, like, I'm honored to say this in front of you, because you're everything I said. Like, I look up to you and the way that you service people. But is this true, Dylan? Like, that we met through LinkedIn, because I was teaching a sports management class and you had a sports background. You came from my hometown where I was teaching, and I asked you to speak for the students. Yeah. And then Dylan not only said, sure, I'll speak for your students, and he was definitely their favorite class. They liked him way more than they liked me, which was awesome. He also gave me like 3 other like guest speakers. Like, he went above and beyond. Like, anyone else would have just come, and like, it was amazing that he was willing to speak. Oh, no problem, no cost. I don't have budget, like nothing, no worries. He also brought me like 4 other people who not only spoke, but they offered my students jobs when they graduated. Just great people. And then ever since then, obviously Dylan's moved to other areas and we've kept in touch, but that's just like, that's who he is, So I appreciate it. But like is
You're
like
making my day. Making my day. Thanks, Esther. It's great to hear.
Like I said in the beginning of this, Keegan, what goes around comes around, right?
That's right.
So
that's right. Patty?
I just want to speak on that for a moment. I'm an energy person, so I come from that place, and we're all very busy. Everyone is busy. But if you get that inkling, like, oh, I should reach out, or I should do this or do that, pay attention to that. There's a reason why you should be doing that. I had a situation. I have a woman who's kind of came, customer, not my customer, but somebody else's in our business. And she had a tremendous loss about almost 2 months ago. And, Sunday, I just felt like, I'm going to reach out to her. And we ended up getting on a call and spent about an hour. And, she was just so grateful. She said, I so needed to talk to you. Now, here's the thing, like Esther said, it's not that I know her, really well, but my background, I was able to service her. I was able to be of service and with her grief and all those kind of things. So whatever our gift is, be willing to share and take that time. Like I said, if you get that inkling, I really should reach out to that person. There's a reason that thought came to you. That person needs to speak to you or needs help or something. So I love this, Esther. Absolutely love this. It's Thanks heart so to heart.
Patty. Yeah, likewise. If I could just say one more thing that just came to mind, if that's okay, Keegan.
Of course.
Oh, okay, thanks. When you go to networking events too, for me personally, like half the time I never say a word. I don't speak the whole networking event, which is fine. Like that's another area where like, if you're objective and your number one goal is always to lead with service, you don't need to speak at an event. It doesn't matter. Like you're there to give to the space. So you being there, you listening, you nodding, you acknowledging, and then following up with people after. And then you could talk all you want on the one-to-ones. Like then you accomplished your goal. Like your goal isn't to speak. Your goal isn't to share what you have. I find that really interesting. I mean, I'm blessed at this point to be involved in networking groups where that's the norm and nobody runs to necessarily speak. But, even if you're not, like my goal is not to talk. Like you'll know who I am when you need to know who I am, I don't need to be number 5 on the list of people to talk in the breakout room, I mean, it's nice, but it's not my number 1, so that's just something also to keep in mind as far as perspective. But when it just has to do with what your goal is and your mindset. That really is what leads how you act and what matters,
I love it. So I want to just share two things really quickly and then give the floor back to anybody that has questions or comments. John C. Maxwell said this really well in his relationship building book, but something that Dylan had mentioned is always coming into new relationships with zero expectation. And just like Dylan said, actually meaning that, you know, when you come into a new relationship, a scenario, a networking event, you lead with giving, just like Esther's saying, you provide a service of value and impact to other people with zero expectation on return. And then an underlying theme, and this is kind of based on what Patty said and Esther and Dylan said and Ben said, but again, back to John C. Maxwell's book, another one of the top 5 things that are required for relationship building is similar experiences. I believe it was like his number 3. So if you can get into networking or new relationships with no expectations and provide those similar experiences, you're building relationships outside of just rapport, you know, building that credibility, but also that impact and that value. So I just wanted to share that. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, stories, anything you'd like to share? I see a lot of heads nodding.
I'll add in real quick. It was actually funny as you told your story about the coffee project. I actually had gotten a message on Slack that was like, "Are you the coffee bandit running around here?" I had coffee in this morning, so just coincidental. So I thought it was funny.
Dylan, maybe we should start that up again. I don't know.
But one of the things that stuck out to me right at the beginning was talking about, you know, everything is your responsibility. I've always been in that mindset. I think that's something that my mother instilled in me, and it used to really bother me, like pet peeve, like anyone that would say, "Well, that's not my job." But being in management, I've also learned, I think you make yourself as valuable as you need to be for that particular company or in that particular moment. So I've learned to become more understanding of those people that do need to stick within their realm of what they need to do. That's still not me, but I've learned an appreciation for them. One of my account executives right now is somebody that he comes to work, he has the job he wants to do. His goal is his family. He doesn't want to start getting involved in all these other things because his priority is his family. And I appreciate that more than I would have in the past. You know, meanwhile, for me, I work for a company that does digital marketing and videography. And about 2 months into working here, I was like, I'm going to take a photography class. I don't want to turn down a job because our photographer's busy. I'll just learn how to do it myself. I'm director of sales. I don't need to, but I think the more valuable that you can make yourself to others is always really important. And so that had just really stood out to me, how I've noticed that mind shift, even just in the last year of, it used to make me angry when people would say, "That's not my job." But I think part of that's understanding their story and knowing what is important to them to know why that's not. So.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great point. So something based on what you just said, Jen, that kind of popped into my mind was Gary. I just saw a video from Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was saying, you know, we go into these big organizations and people think that having a snack bar is how you build culture, or having a foosball table in the corner is how you build culture, but it's not about that. And it's basically what you just said, and what Esther just said is you actually have to have conversations with people. If you're in a managerial or a leadership role, you need to have conversations with people on your team. That could be in person, that could be at a lunch, that could be virtually, but knowing what their actual goals are and knowing what they want and they desire, just like the scenario with the family being the priority with what Jen just shared. If you know that's what somebody's number one goal is, then now you can serve them and bring that value. The other thing is, and I want to share this story really quickly. If we've talked about coffee today, if we were all to go to Starbucks right now, and I haven't been to Starbucks in forever, so please somebody correct me here, but you might spend, $6 to $10 on a coffee, right? You could go across the street to a McDonald's and spend $1 to $3. The reason people are willing to spend more money at Starbucks is because of the value that is provided. It's the ambiance of being in that location, the way that you feel. It's the fact that they write your name on the side of the coffee. It's more interpersonal. It's the fact that they have their measurements that are not standard measurements. It's venti. It's these other, it's another language. It's Italian, I believe. But having that value, however, at the end of the day, they're both, you know, bean water, right? It's not too much different. So the reason people are willing to spend more money is because of the value that's provided. And that's the same thing when we're servicing, is that you could be in competition with somebody else that provides the exact same service, but if you go above and beyond and you provide more value and more impact, they're going to choose you every time. So I'd love to hear from some other people as well. I mean, Keith, Matt, Aaron, do you guys have any thoughts or stories? Matt, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say what I typed in the chat, Esther, one great presentation, really inspirational, but it just goes to show how one little act of service can become so contagious, because you have 30 people who maybe were probably willing to do this the whole time, for whatever reason, weren't comfortable enough stepping up, thought it was like, what is this guy going to think of me, right? You never know what's going through people's heads on why they don't do something or take an initiative. But when one person does, it opens this floodgate. And that's the same in any company, in any culture, whether you work directly with the people or not. Once one person's willing to do something, now everyone else is kind of like, oh, wait, I'm not crazy. I can do that too.
Matthew, your word initiative, I think is like gold. Like I feel like, again, everyone has opportunity. It doesn't matter, like your job, your office, it's like we get too wrapped up in like the physical where we are. It makes no difference. Like we're all souls in this like crazy, and I'm not super woozy at all. I'm actually very rational, but in this way, like we just gotta like take it. Like it's literally there. Like I'm gonna walk downstairs and I gotta get my security guard coffee. Like it's just so easy. It's $2, it's 50 cents, it's a smile. Like it's nothing in the elevator, you know, like it's just right there in front of us. And I feel like if we're all doing that, like the world really would change. I do believe that. That's the wishy in me. We would see it. But it's just initiative, is people actually taking what's in front of them and running with it and not being afraid of what people say. And again, like I can't speak. It's different for everyone. I was this like schmuck. I still am. Like, what am I? Like, I don't have any impact, but like, I can, like, we all can, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, I was literally this 15-year-old carrying computers through Manhattan because I shipped them to the wrong address and I went to pick them up personally because I felt bad about it. Like, what is this, you know? But like, it sucks sometimes. Like, it's worth it because I could make a difference on my way carrying that computer. And like, when I get to the client, I used to also always ask, for the difficult clients. Those are some of my best relationships this day, because I started out in different roles in my company, moved over time. But I feel like people, again, same with like Jen, with like job descriptions and like, you know, worrying about your own role, like see difficult people as an opportunity. Like they need your help the most. Like they're asking for it. They're reaching out in their way that they do and yelling at you. And really all they're saying is, listen, nobody's going to listen to me. And it's like, responding back to the yells with like, oh, wow, you must have had a really long day. Like, tell me about that. Or like, you'll see it. Like their mind will be blown. And then they'll keep yelling. They'll pause for a second. They'll take in that you're not giving them back what everybody else did back. And then they'll start yelling again. But you will make an impact. And if you see them again, they may not yell at you the next time. So try it. Just try it. Try it and come back and tell me how it goes.
I love it. Esther, I think one of your coffee project, and I think Marlene just put something in the chat that's very similar. You know, you're talking about adding value this whole time, right? And, you know, so many people, including people in this call, who I think would all consider themselves pretty good at, you know, figuring out how to, you know, connect the dots. But, you know, when people ask, well, how do I really add value? What's the easiest way? You know, take your coffee project as the perfect example. I tell everybody the easiest way to add value is other people. You don't have to execute on things. Get other people involved. Find what they're good at or what value they can bring. And as long as you can, you know, expand that individual's network, and, you know, so much can get done. So other people with your coffee project might think about it monetarily. Oh, well, how much would it cost? And that's the main concern, and it never gets off the ground because it's more than you can afford and it's a dead idea. But the second you get an elevator full of people involved, you know, everything starts to happen, you know. So it's just a total different view of, hey, let me add value with people here and their strengths, not just what the end result needs to be. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
I think too, though, it doesn't even have to be something like that. I mean, we did a training on appreciation yesterday, and I thought this was really interesting. They had done a poll in this book where they asked all their employees, where would they rate appreciation? And they rated it as number 1. And then they polled management. Where do you put that? They rated it as number 8. Look at that big thing, like, even if you just walk by the elevator guy and say, thanks so much, great job. How valuable is that, But I thought that was interesting between the employees and the management, that they don't see that, an attaboy, you're doing a great job, is of value, but it is.
That's such a great point.
That's just something I wanted to. Oh no, go ahead, Matthew.
I was just going to say really quickly that's I forget the book. That's the difference between management and leadership. If you ask leadership the same question, they're probably not as big a gap between 1 and 8.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If every space in this world was made of people that are in this group, like, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because everyone here is service minded. But we can make that happen through each of our individual actions. But next time we speak, it'll be the whole world on our side.
No, that's just something I wanted to add to your point, how you're like that. Everyone can make an impact. I think people don't do it because they think they should be taking carbon out of the atmosphere themselves. Like, they don't understand, like, that coffee idea that you have with the security guard, how it beams his face. Like, it probably made his week for that first time that you bought it. Like, if everyone could understand in the world, I'm not talking about you guys, just like everyone in the world, like, the littlest impact that they can make, it really isn't little. Like, it's the building block to something that could potentially be something that's huge, like cleaning up the atmosphere or the oceans, or something along those lines. So I thought it was just like a great point that you were making, that like people are just scared to like make that impact because they think it should be massive, or that's at least part of the problem, in my opinion.
It's very well said. And I don't want to like glorify. I mean, there's a lot of grind. Like, there's a lot of grind, but I think it's our obligation as humans to kind of rise above that and not get lost in, like, I'm always catching myself like feeling down or whatever, just not getting caught in the grind and just being able to see the bigger picture. Like, it matters, it adds up. The little things, like Keegan was saying, they do matter. It does come back to you. You might feel like you're giving and giving and giving. If you just can't stop, like, you just got to keep going, and it will pay off. It will, if you have the right intentions and keep going.
Yeah. And it's not a grind. If, like you said, if it's the right intention and something you love,
that's true too.
Part of your day.
That's your next level, Ryan. I'm still trying to get there, but
I want to share a story real quick based off of what Ryan just said. So there's a couple that's walking down the beach, and it's the sun is rising, and they notice that the beach is littered with starfish. And the gentleman bends over and he picks up one of the starfish and he places it back in the ocean. And every step he continues to do this. And his partner looks at him and says, well, what are you doing? You can't make a difference. There's 1 million starfish on this beach. You'll never save them all. And he picks up one more and says, but I changed that one's life. And I made a difference for this one. And that's based off of the point that Ryan was just sharing, is that you may see this larger picture or this larger problem, and you may think, well, what am I going to do? I can't make a big difference. But just by doing that small little task, you are making a difference, and it is impacting somebody. So great point, Ryan. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have any last minute points? We're getting towards the end. So if you haven't had a chance to speak, I know we'd love to hear from everybody in here.
I had one thing to say. Esther, thank you for everything you just gave to us. And I find great value in everything. I'm in between meetings right now, and I'm here because you started an amazing thing called In This Together Roundtable. And it is the one networking group that I've ever been a part of that I'm not afraid to share everyone. And it's because of the dedication to service that you have spoken about today. And I think everyone on this call, and if you're new and you haven't joined, you should join. It's that mindset that everyone is speaking about today that put me on this call this morning. And I have to jump off soon because I have another meeting. But I'm telling you, this is the one place that I feel has everything I ever wanted in a networking group. And Keegan is another extension of that. And we've everyone I've talked to, this is the one group, everyone I've talked to has been amazing. And I keep recommending you forever and ever and ever. So thank you again for starting this. Keegan, thank you for having everybody on this and making this possible.
Wouldn't be a group without you guys. Thank you, Keith.
Couldn't agree with everything you said more. It's really the service industry. Different iterations of it, but I would love to do one with you. I wouldn't mind diving a little bit deeper into this. I'll bug you.
I'll get you two connected. There's a little bit of like a Terminator thing in the background, Bill. I'm not sure if that's coming up on your mic, but yeah, I'll get you two in touch. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Yeah.
So I'll share one last story and then, we'll kind of wrap this up, guys. But one of the things that was also shared, and I think this is a fascinating story, is that it oftentimes does not need to be a monetary service value add impact that we provide for people. You may be just starting off, you may be in a tight spot. It doesn't have to be monetary. There was, and I know my New Yorkers are going to love this. So there was a boat off of the New York harbor, and this was many years ago. And for whatever reason, the boat started to sink. And there was a young gentleman, I can't remember his name, but there was a young gentleman on the boat, and he actually jumped overboard. And this is in the winter, so the New York harbor gets quite cold, right? It was below freezing, very cold. And this guy risks his life to jump into the harbor, and he starts pulling people out of the water. He saved 17 lives. And a reporter asked him, "What do you remember most about that particular memory?" And he said, "Out of all of the 17 people that I risked my life to save, not one of them said thank you." And I think that the underlying theme is not that New Yorkers are bad. That's not my point here. My point is that gratitude is one of the most powerful yet impactful ways that we can support or build value for other people. So just by, again, John C. Maxwell said this, but one of the most powerful words is that you can tell somebody you did a good job or thank you so much. These are very simple things to say, and it can absolutely radically change somebody's day. So if you don't have the ability, or maybe you're in a virtual world where you can't provide coffee for the people that help make your job possible, just say thank you. Tell somebody that you appreciate their service and their presence and their impact on your life. So I just wanted to share that story. But guys, we're about to wrap up. So any last minute thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, stories, snide remarks that you'd like to share?
I just like to say off that, Keegan, support people non-monetarily. Share their GoFundMe, just like the GoFundMe. Like, we're 12 people. If we liked every GoFundMe, we get in front of all 12 of our audiences. Like, people in our audience can give money, So just supporting people, and people appreciate that more than anything anyway. Money you can get from rich people, but support from people like you is not easy to get. So
I could add one last thing, kind of based on the themes of connecting and everything else, and networking. I don't know if you guys remember elementary school. I didn't know anybody, but then there was like that one person was like, "Hey, do you want to be my friend?" And I felt like, yeah, sure. It just felt so great. And then in college too, I was like, I didn't know anybody. And then it was like, you know what? I'm going to be the guy to be like, "Hi, I'm Ben. Do you want to be my friend?" And that's the kind of mentality I use when I go to like networking groups and stuff like that, or like these events. It's powerful. Like Esther said, everyone feels awkward, there's this new space. It's just like going to college again, it's like you don't really know each other. Some people know each other already. You feel like you're the one that's odd, the odd one out. But be proactive and I loved how you said, welcome as your like kind of describer, but just saying, hi, I'm Ben, what's your name? It does something, it sparks something, usually for most people, like, oh, this person's expressing interest in me and they want to learn, and then ask those kind of questions and just be a listener, like Esther was saying, and powerful things happen after that. So I'll stop there, but just wanted to add that.
It's a great point, Ben. Just having the humility to be able to have conversations with people. As you mentioned, it sparks interest, right? And that's such a powerful thing. Go say hello to a stranger, smile at somebody. That little smile goes so far. I can't tell you how impactful that can be for somebody. They might be having the worst day of their life, and then they see your beautiful smile and they're like, wow, there is beauty in this world. So it's just such a powerful way to change people's lives. Like, why wouldn't we do that? I think that one of the biggest things is that people talk about changing the world so often. If you want to change the world, if you want to change a business, if you want to change your partner, it all starts with changing yourself. What you put out into the world, you receive back. That is the essence of manifestation. So being able to provide these little things, one of the things that has always stuck with me in the hardest of times is that when you are lacking something, that is exactly what you need to give the world at that particular moment. If you are lacking love, if you are lacking joy, if you are lacking whatever it is, you need to give that back to the world. If you feel like you're isolated or lonely, share love with a brother, a sister, a friend, a family member, somebody, and you will see that come back to you. It's such a powerful thing. So anybody want to share any last minute things? We're gonna close out here. No? Okay, great. So Esther, thank you again so much for speaking. Absolutely love the content. You had some brilliant points, great stories. Excellent. Everybody else, thank you so much for your contribution, your thoughts, your input, your questions. Guys, this was an incredible session. Thank you all so much for being here today. Again, if you don't know somebody, go ahead and reach into that chat really quickly, make some connections, set up some appointments. If you need to get in touch with anybody and you missed that opportunity, just feel free to message me and I'll get you in touch with people. But guys, have an incredible Tuesday. Have a great week. I look forward to seeing you all again next Tuesday.
Thank you all. Thank you, Keegan.
Bye. Thanks, Keegan. Thanks, Esther.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.